Tommy and Jay, we are very cosy here.
We are. It's a little close for comfort, but yeah, I'll trust you, Adrian.
Yeah. Mr. Techie Adrian with his Android phone.
That's it. Oh my God! So it only took us about 30 minutes to get prepared here, guys. But anyway, that's life in the fast lane. And talking about fast lanes, whoa! What's the stuff that's happening in the world right now?
Whoa, isn't it fast, Tommy? You know, it's put the seatbelt on. Feels like we're in Mach 8.
It's Mach 8. Mach 8. I don't know if my organic physiological structure will be able to handle that, but let alone my brain at the moment with what's been going on. So, yeah, I mean, we won't go into it too much, but you know, these sorts of things affect your feelings, Adrian.
They certainly do, and there are many, many feelings, aren't they? For some people, it's excitement, and other people, it's doom.
Right.
You know,
yes.
It's right. The polar opposite on the planet.
And then there's two crazies on this side getting super excited. I'm ready to buy some bags of popcorn as we watch what's happening over in that crazy, awesome country called the United States of America.
Isn't it incredible what's happening over there?
Oh my God! It's like, and what's been really nuts is, you know, we all know, everybody knows now. It seems to be standard issue that stuff gets censored on these platforms that were supposed to be very open when they first came out. You know, part of the reason people went to these platforms was to get rid of the censored mainstream media. And, oh my God, what do you know?
It's everywhere, apart from Cap TV.
A little apart from Cap TV.
Sometimes a bit too uncensored.
Right, but exactly. And we are using these platforms right now. Should they allow us to remain? But, you know, life happens. But feelings,
wow,
and the spiritual-logical.
Interesting topic.
Interesting topic.
Because as you know, Tommy, you know, I've expressed before a few times around the feeling realm that, you know, feelings come from the soul. They're not manufactured by the mind. And
right.
If we take that soul concept that the soul is real, that's the premise.
Right.
The soul is real, and it's people can feel into the soul. Right. They feel their emotions. They feel where they're at. They feel joy. They feel dread. They feel fear. So we know feeling is real from the experience. Always.
Okay. So being the, you know, the more corporate experienced guy between the two of us, tell me what the soul is again.
All right. Yeah. So the soul is that space, that seat where the feelings and the emotions and the desires and the habits, if you like, sit and are stored.
Okay.
It's where we go to get access to our feelings.
So is this like
we can't go to the brain to get access to our feelings.
No.
You know, if I go there and go like, you know, can you feel joy?
Feel emotion in my head.
It's not there.
No.
It's grey matter. Like, it's not.
I can feel a headache though.
Yeah, you feel a headache.
Yeah.
So what happens is you feel the pressure of something happening in the brain. You know, headache is usually a pressure.
Right.
Yeah. So there's a physicality thing you feel.
Right.
The message gets sent to the brain that something is not right.
Right.
So it gets sent into the body or into the soul.
Right.
To show a feeling.
Okay.
So that from the feeling, then you can take an action to remedy whatever's going on for you.
Right.
So the feeling is a trigger for change.
Right.
If you like. Because when you have a feeling of a headache, there's a choice then to change it.
Okay.
Because if head is exploding,
yeah,
and there's no sense in the sensory realm,
right?
Yeah, and then you don't know there's a pressure, then it could be really dangerous. But the fact that you feel something means you can have an action to remedy whatever you're feeling.
Right, because it's energy and motion,
right? Energy and motion.
Because it's an emotive thing.
Yeah, yeah, and even Einstein, you know, speaks really clearly that there's no real such thing as matter.
Yeah,
matter is just a dense energy.
Right.
Really.
Right. It's dense energy.
Dense energy,
and we see it in a color form.
Yeah.
Within a very narrow band.
Yeah, so it's just very 3D energy.
Right.
Yeah. Whereas, you know, we get other energies that the human being cannot even feel, see, touch. Right. Because it's so beyond the frequency level.
Okay.
So when we go into the feeling realm, for me, it's the conduit, if you like, between the 3D world and the spiritual. We have that sort of spiritual center of I cannot touch my feelings, they're not tangible.
Right.
But I can feel them through the pain threshold of my physical body.
Right.
So for me, the soul is that conduit between the physical and the spiritual. That's how I would express the soul.
Okay. Has this got anything to do with the, I could say this wrong, but the Akashic records?
Oh, look, all right. So now we're getting really, really esoteric. So for me,
I've been reading up. You see.
yeah. So the Akasha record or the Akashic record is, in essence, the cosmic library of knowledge. That's how I express it. Everything that has ever happened on the planet.
Yep.
And this is where we get into that.
It's like a big database.
It's a big database up in the sky. So you know, we talk about the microcosm and the macrocosm.
Right.
So if everything we do as a human is then amplified, into the cosmic, everything we do in computers, in our life, that record was already existing in the cosmos.
I thought that was all kept on Facebook.
So, yeah. Not all of it. Only a small amount.
Sorry, that was very
only a small amount.
Right.
So when people tune into the, if you like, the Akashic record or the database up in the sky, all that information is up there. When we get into the right frequency to download that information, so we have to take responsibility to download the frequency energy of what we're trying to tap into.
Okay.
So when we get to dense frequency, we download density.
Awesome.
If we get into higher frequencies, we can download higher frequencies.
So control your energy, you can change your life on planet Earth.
Totally. So in the old days, people would talk about the spiritual muse.
Right.
And they would tune into the spiritual muse. Writers, poets would tune into that spiritual energy of being a writer from the spiritual muse.
Okay.
Downloading characters for novels. I mean, I do that. I'm a writer.
Right.
So when I'm in that space of being creative, where's my creativity coming from? It's coming from the ethers. It's coming from the spiritual space.
Wow, a lot of people find this concept hard to fathom because of really generations of how it's been brought up. And a lot of this, it's funny how a lot of, and I know we connect back into feelings here, but there was a lot of history that just went missing as well. So yeah, I mean, a great topic for us to go into at some stage. But getting back to feelings, then we're talking the soul, and I threw it in there to throw a span in the works of the Akashic records. Is there any connection between feelings and that big database in the sky, or
look? Depends how one quantifies the mind, because it's really the mind.
Not the brain. That's the mind. It's the software, not the hardware.
So the brain is the physical, right? The mind is that creative, non-tangible.
The program.
So the brain's tangible, mind is untangible. Right. That's how I would express that. Okay. And then what happens is when we want to tune into that Akashic space, which is not really a feeling space, right? Because when
it's a record.
So when one goes into the spiritual realms, through process of education, educating oneself to go there, like driving a car, you practice, you get it right. So transcend into that spiritual space, to go beyond the veils, if you like. One has to let go of feelings, right? One has to let go of any rational thought, because the spiritual realm doesn't operate in that space. It's got its own set of rules.
Interesting.
So one has to almost let go of the 3D, not completely, because then we lose ourselves. So in the olden ages, it was called the golden thread. Right. So one would have a hierophant or a teacher. Right. They would almost metaphorically tie a golden thread around their teacher's arm or to the table. Yeah. They would be like a kite being let go into the spiritual world in the golden thread, and if you like, the soul or the spirit of, and this is where it gets a bit contentious of the naming of different things. Right. Would transcend out of the human body. Yeah. Into the spiritual realm and have spiritual experiences, and then would slowly come back into the body. And how I liken this, Tommy, closest we get to it in our knowing mind space is when we dream. We go to sleep, right? We leave the body to some degree,
sort of like astral traveling.
Yeah, yep. So when we dream, we're actually out of our body, right? We're connected again to that dream realm or that spiritual realm. Yeah. And then in the morning, boom, we're back in again.
Interesting.
Yeah, and some of us, like myself, sometimes I'll have a jolt. I've woken up suddenly. Right. I'll have a jolt where my soul and my spirit are coming back into my body. Wow. Because I'm so far gone in my dream. When I dream,
you're traveling the planet.
I'm gone. I'm gone. Seriously gone. So totally let go. Right. So when I come back in, if I come back in fast, it can be a jolt. Right. Because I'm leaving the body. So what's leaving the body is that soul, or that, the other name for it is an astral aspect of being that does the astral traveling, if you like. Right. literature around that.
Okay.
And that's really just a soul happening.
Yeah, right.
And then the deeper core aspect of us that's very untangible is the spiritual aspect, which is the core of who I am. Yeah.
So how does the spirit then compare to the soul?
Yeah.
Where do they kind of?
So the soul is the soul is the spirit of feelings and emotions.
Right.
And the spiritual aspect of ourselves is, I would call, the choice maker.
Oh.
It's the one that chooses to feel or chooses not to feel.
Oh, okay.
So the soul is where everything's happening.
Yep.
And then the spirit is the choice maker that chooses to engage or disengage,
right,
or to be conscious of this. We can be in an emotional state and be totally unconscious. Right. People go, "What's up with you?" And you go, "What do you mean?" You're being a bit today.
Yeah.
No, I'm not.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Well, you are. No, I'm not. Yes, well, that's what conflict's like.
Right. Okay.
But when we're aware of the emotions,
yep,
the question is who's aware?
Yeah.
That would be the spirit.
Right.
Yeah.
So then they also
the observer. I call it the
super consciousness.
Super conscious. Yeah. Well, I call it the observer.
The observer. Yeah, yeah. The observer. Super consciousness.
Yeah,
it's above.
Yeah. Consciousness. Yeah. It's above what's happening for me. Right. Unconscious. Right. Because most of us go around life unconsciously.
Yeah.
We have feelings of unconsciousness. You know, we're angry, moody, even sometimes joyous without even noticing. Right. Right. But when we become conscious of the soul, when we become conscious of emotions, when we become conscious of feelings, yep, that's the secret. And if we take this back to the business perspective, I mean, yep, when people in business are aware of what's happening in the business from an energetic, feeling, emotional perspective, yep, and they pick up on that understanding of vibration, right, things can change in the workplace. Right. Because what it does, it brings about an understanding of where things get blocked, right, where things are in flow from an energetic feeling perspective, emotional perspective. Because a lot of what happens in business is not about how good somebody is about operating a system or getting involved with a process. It's about what's happening in my emotional body. How am I feeling when I'm doing the job? Right. Because you know, I both know, the listeners in there, when you feel good about something you do, yeah, and you're in the flow, yeah, work is great. Right. And there's a flow, and you get your clients, you get your customers, you get the sales. Yeah. But when the emotion is sitting there, I'm not feeling good about myself. Yeah. Everything comes down. You're attracting that sort of thing. And we spoke about it before, the biorhythms go down. Right. You know, like yesterday, just to share, I had some energy work on Wednesday, some deep work, I had some cupping work and some Bowen and some work. And I was a bit off yesterday. Right. I was out of sorts. Yeah, yeah. I went to do my speech in my morning. Palm Beach, I'm a BX leader, lead. Right. And I got lost for words. You know, which is unusual for me. It's unusual, yeah. Well, right. And I just went, I'm really sorry. I'm just having a mental blank. Yeah. And I just couldn't get it together. All day yesterday I was off. Right. And I had a bit of a sleep and a cry yesterday afternoon in the arms of my beloved. Right. And fell asleep for about 20 minutes. Yeah. And I felt great because I came back into my body again. Right. I wasn't feeling good. Yeah, yeah, right. But because I was aware enough to feel it, to recognize it, I went and did something about it. Right. I went and had a sleep. You're aware of it, right? And last night I had really great sleep. Yeah. Like full on, solid, deep sleep. Yeah. And I woke up this morning back in tune again. Right. But it's about the awareness of feelings. Right. So feelings are all well and good, right? But it's about what we do with them. Okay. It's about what we do with them. So if in the business space, there's sort of a beacon in a way, an indicator of something. Yeah. And if you're being more spiritually connected, super consciousness or whatever, you're aware of this. Yeah. And so you're observing. Okay. And well, it's funny, because then, like, if I look at some of my experiences, and I think leaders in, let's say, the business world, leaders in general, let's metaphorically call the room the office, and you just feel a vibe that something's not right with the team. There's something going on. Where is that coming from? It's usually about the boss. Right, it's usually about the boss. Yeah, right. Yeah, it's that guy. Boss, it's me. Everything's great to the boss walks in. Everything okay, guys? What's going on? Yeah. The common denominator. Yeah, common denominator. Yeah. Oh, we're all fine. We don't know about you. Yeah, we're all feeling this way. Common denominator. CEO, right? Yeah. And often you can pinpoint it back to that common denominator, right? Like something's not flowing in the organisation. Yeah. And if everybody's honest, they can come back to the common denominator, and there's usually an issue, a challenge, or a person that's upsetting the energy flow.
Right.
And
some connection somewhere.
And it takes courage to name it.
Yeah, right.
You know, particularly if it's a person.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to scapegoat.
Yeah.
You know, like you don't. But at some point it needs calling.
Right.
You know, and that's where the skill of that calling comes in, because you don't want to demonize somebody.
Yeah.
So the skillful negotiator to take that person aside and say, look, what's going on with you right now? Right. Feeling something's not right with you.
Yeah.
Do you want to share some space here? Do you need some time out? Do you need to come and talk to us? Do you need to let us know? Because your vibration, your energy, your feeling is not matching that of the company.
Right. Right.
And that's common. And a lot of the time, if that's somebody in the higher realms of the business, that flow will come through everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll flow. Shit flows downhill, as they say.
It'll come down.
Yeah.
You know, that synergetic connection between, you know, the leaders, if they're not on the game, if they're not in peak performance, like we talk about, that by an energy flow coming down will affect everybody. Right. That synergy will affect everybody. Right. Yeah. Osmosis. You know, by osmosis, it'll happen.
Well, I mean, in effect, you've got the leader being a sort of a hub, right? In a way, because they are connected to a number of people from a 360 point of view, but then, you know, the as they used to call them, subordinates, right? God, it's such a bad term.
The minions.
Their team, the minions, the peasants, who feel like we're written like that right now in the world, aren't we? What's going on? But anyway,
the word minion too. Bit of Freudian slip.
Absolutely.
Minion machines.
Oh my God, what are they called? Dominion. What are they? Anyway, but you know, that's why having that leadership role is so important, because you will create a ripple effect which will permeate through an organisation, the one that you are responsible for. And so leaders being able to keep their energy level and frequency, if you will, to where it needs to be is so important. But things could be triggering them. They've got a life. They're a human.
They're human beings. They've got stuff going at home, going on in the office, going on with the bank, going on with, you know, things breaking down. Like, we have to deal with things. Yeah. But if we don't tune into the feeling behind that, am I feeling behind that? Am I feeling frustrated? Am I feeling annoyed? Right. Am I feeling some anger? Am I feeling some rage? Yeah. Feeling disappointment? Yeah. If we don't spend time on that feeling, and I also say, let's name it, then we can tame it. Right. Yeah. If we don't name the feeling, table, right? If we don't name the feeling, we can't tame it. Yeah. Elephants in the room. Elephants in the room. Yeah. And usually that's around a feeling. And the feeling of frustration, the feeling of anger, the feeling of rage, the feeling of disappointment. Right. And it's so funny how the corporate world just can't handle managing that stuff. At least organisations in the past, in the old paradigm, right, which is we are now entering this quickening of change. That it fascinated me how throughout my career, because I would be, especially having come from a Mediterranean background, it was very much get the feelings out, or what is it that's on your mind or in your heart, right? To open up to this somewhat vulnerable situation, because it's all been so left brain driven, objectivity only in the corporate world. And probably I'd say because that's become such a masculine space.
Right, a lot of testosterone,
generally
and yang.
Yeah, and what we've learned over the years, generations after generations, is, you know, men don't get into their emotions, men don't cry. Yeah, men don't.
They've got to be tough. Real leaders don't show weakness. You know,
and yet
it's stoic.
But the weakness is in not showing the emotion.
It is the weakness, because you really got to have some.
It takes some courage,
cojones to not show it. To show some weakness, some vulnerability. Not weakness, to show vulnerability. To take
show
the
feelings.
Risk, to show feelings.
Right? Yeah, it's not a weakness to show feelings. In fact, it's very powerful, and for men in particular, in, you know, relationships with a woman. Right. A woman wants to see a man in his emotions. Right. Wants to see a man in his feeling realm.
Wow. So then, showing feelings or showing emotions?
Well, so having a feeling and expressing it, because we have the feeling, and then we express it through an emotive action. Right. So we have an emotion, which is the expression of the feeling. Right. Right.
Okay. Which could be anger, it could be sadness.
Yeah.
It shows up as a.
So we feel it. And then I've got a choice. I can cover it up.
Yep.
And I can keep it repressed inside my body.
Or I can rip somebody's head off.
I can rip somebody's head off. And I'm not angry.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Or I can say, right now I'm feeling really triggered, feeling really angry. I'm going to go into my office and get the punch bag and punch for 5 minutes and feel better.
Right.
Or I'm going to scream or yell or whatever I need to do.
Right.
But there has to be a release.
There has to be a release.
Safe release.
Right. Okay.
Because otherwise somebody down the line is going to copy.
Right.
And this is what happens.
Well, it could be the owner. If they're trying to keep it in the box, the issue ends up in the
tissue.
In the tissue.
Yeah, so it'll go into an organ,
right.
go into the body, or it goes down line to one of the staff.
Right.
Yep.
And
or
they
customer
have to
or
wear
client.
it, and it triggers them, or a customer or client, somewhere that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But then, if communicating with someone saying, "Look," because if you're going to, this is where you got to be careful. You get triggered, but then you put it on somebody else. So, look, when you do this, I feel this way.
Yes.
Now, there's a fine line of projection, and
blame.
Expression, and blame, not owning it. But would it be okay to say, look, I feel this way. I'm not asking you to own this. I'm just communicating this is what's happening. This is my responsibility. I get it. But then what if they ask for some compassion on the other side and that's all that was required? I mean, where is that fine line between how much ownership of you and the other individual?
A very fine line. And there's always two aspects to conflict.
Right.
One is what have I allowed in? Where did I have my trigger?
Right.
Where was I not in my healthy boundary? Where was not in my consciousness?
Yeah.
And where did I let that trigger in?
Yeah.
And where is the responsibility of the other?
Yeah.
Having that action or word to set that trigger off.
Right.
So, for instance, I could be in a conversation with somebody.
Yeah.
Somebody says something to me.
Yeah.
I get triggered.
Yeah.
I explode and have a reaction.
Yeah.
Now, usually that person that we blame didn't have a clue that was going on.
Yeah, no.
They might have just said you left the lid off the toothpaste.
Right. What the?
And it wasn't anything to do with the toothpaste. It was just the straw on the camel's back.
Right.
It's triggered us off.
Yeah.
There's a big yelling, screaming, and
all of other stuff that comes out.
And it's like, what are you talking about? I just left the lid off the toothpaste.
Right. Yeah, for the 100th time this week.
Yeah.
It's like,
and suddenly it's in conflict. But if we can own the feeling, like what's underlying that trigger?
Yeah.
Well, it's my frustration. I had a bad day at the office. I'm stressed at work. I come home and I explode.
Yeah.
It's got nothing to do with our plan.
Right.
And yet, usually we explode when it's safe.
Right.
So oftentimes people go home and explode because there's a sense of safety.
Yeah, they're not going to go anywhere. You feel that they're in there and they're committed.
Yeah. So often we can explode with,
the ones we
friends
love,
or partners. Yeah, because there's a safe place.
Right.
So it's really important in the workplace to have a safe place to express.
Right.
Whether that's with somebody professional, a coach, a counsellor, or so, or a gym, or somewhere to go and have a good old yell, scream, whatever's needed, cry.
Right.
Like I use the ocean. I go body surfing most mornings.
Yeah.
And oftentimes in there, I'll have a good old yell and scream to let go of any underlying issues in there.
Right.
Because the ocean's nice and noisy, nobody can hear me.
Yeah.
It can be absorbed in the water.
Scare the whales away.
That's why there's no whales.
Scare the sharks away.
I get it. No dolphins in Robins because Adrian.
That's right.
So part of it, Tommy, is being responsible for one's feelings and then responsible for the reaction of the emotion that's going to come from that.
All right, let's say the other individual, though, is they're going to go, it's work, peer, friend, or maybe you're a leader and there's things going on between you and one of the people in your team. You then explode. Where was I going with this? You explode and they basically say, well, it's fine. Hey, dude, it's like your problem.
Yeah. And it is. It is a problem.
Total lack of compassion.
Yeah. It is their problem, in the sense that they let it in.
Right.
But it's also the responsibility of the person delivering that arrow or wound or whatever.
Yeah, that's more shaped like an arrow that way.
Mostly people are unconscious with that delivery, unless it's done in a meaningful and conscious way.
Right, because it could be very objective data, left-brained delivery.
It could be.
Or it could be with a bit of acid on the tip of the arrow.
Yeah, which is unconscious because we don't know where that's coming from.
Right, because
that could be a trigger from their history.
Right.
So what we do, there's a Lunig, and for those not in Australia, there's a great cartoonist in Australia called Lunig.
Right.
He's one of the greatest cartoonists. He's just brilliant.
Right.
I love him.
Right.
And he's got this great cartoon that he drew with all these people walking around with these arrows in them.
Right.
Their heads down.
Right.
And it was expressing how we walk around with these wounds.
Right.
And how we communicate through the wound.
Yeah.
Totally, all the time, every day.
Right.
I express with you through a defense mechanism of not showing my wound,
Right.
but also projecting onto you because you're triggering my old wound continually, and life is triggering my wound continually.
Yeah.
And then I feel that,
Yeah.
feel the wound,
Yep.
and then I respond from that wound.
Right. Right.
And we're in almost constant conflict in the world with each other because of our own past wounds.
Right.
So if we don't go back in and do the, if you like, the therapy and tidy up those wounds, we walk around just wounding each other continually, particularly in relationships, in loving relationships with partners, but also in the business world, with partnerships, with staff, with people in the office. There's continual jibes, and energetic jibes, and energetic arrows.
Right. Right.
For some people,
energetic arrows.
they're dense and they don't feel them, and they just go through life. So they don't feel them. But other people are a bit more sensitive. Right. They pick up on it. Right. They're sensitive to it, and it's tiring and it's wounding. And people get mentally exhausted. They get exhausted through adrenal exhaustion. Yeah. Because of other people's actions. Yeah. And because of the lack of a healthy boundary. Right. So a couple of things: getting a healthy boundary. Yeah. And my saying is, if it's not invited, it's not allowed in. Right. Physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, psychologically, or whatever system. Right. If I don't invite it, it's not allowed in. Right. And sometimes I forget. Sometimes my consciousness is not there to stop that. Right. And I get triggered. And of course, then I respond or react from
getting under the skin, so to speak.
But I try to take as much responsibility as I can, not to let things in.
So if somebody's like flicking back that thing where I think they call it gaslighting.
Yeah.
Right, where well, sorry, mate, it's your problem. Yeah. Because so then it's like, oh, it's only my issue, and someone's maybe expressing something, but they've been almost invalidated by that mere response. That receiving person, if they have enough maturity, because in a way they're getting into just a fantastic defensive move, right? They sort of like flick it back, gaslight back, that hey, this ain't my issue, it's your issue. A smarter way to for them to handle it would be to, like their force fields, not from a defensive point of view, but from an awareness point of view, to go, okay, whoop, I feel this, sure. They've got the opportunity then to go between stimulus and response. Go, okay, I'm feeling crap. I'm going to come back, but how do you keep the heart in the game? Right?
It depends
These feelings are out on the table.
So it depends on the individual situation. Right. For some people, and it would depend on the temperament of the person, the nature of the person. Yeah. So for some people, if you like, they're in that fiery, choleric sort of energy. Yeah. And they, quite a fiery people, and they like a bit of conflict. Yeah. You come at them with that. Right. You meet them in their same energy, cleric to cleric. Okay. But if someone is a bit more,
so meet them at the same frequency level.
Yeah, meet them.
Not because they get above it. Not be above it.
Because not above it. They don't get that. They get that. So you meet them. So sometimes you've seen me operate with that. Some people like snap out of it. Yeah. Because that's the only way they're going to hear it. Right. The only way it's going to go in.
Hear it. Right.
Because the only way it's going to meet them, because that's where they're at. They're in that already. Right. But other people, it's gentle and subtle, because that's how they work in their energy field. Right. So you bring it. This is why it's great in any leadership, is to study some sort of psychology or understanding of the human being. Yep. I find a way. I work with the temperaments, which are ancient. They go all the way back to the ancient Greeks. Yeah. And they used to work in those ether spaces with people and work in the bile and the body parts. Yeah. Depending on the temperament. Yeah. So I've been studying the temperaments for 30 years. Yeah. So when I meet people, are they choleric, fiery? Right. Are they airy, sanguine? Yeah. Are they more phlegmatic and sort of unstable and static, and sort of just move through life quite steadily? Yeah. Or a bit melancholic and going for the analytic. Right. And when you can read and get a sense of people's temperament or energy, you can match it. Right. It's a real skill that any leader, I believe, should have.
So it's, once again, it's like, we've spoken a couple of times about pacing and leading. Yeah. Pacing to their frequency. Yep. then they, in a way,
and they get it.
feel they're being heard as well. Because if you come at this frequency that's a lot higher and full of love, they're going to go, "What the dude?" Then you know what? They're not going to get it. You get in there, take it on at the same frequency, whatever the frequency is, and then perhaps having the strength to then start to change the frequency, to take a leadership in moving and say, "Hey, look, I know you're frustrated. So am I." Right? But so then you start to sort of tone it down.
So what you've done is you've named the feeling.
Right.
You've got the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
Name it frustration.
Right.
Both feeling frustrated. Yeah. Is that how you feel? Are you frustrated too? Because I am.
Yeah.
I am.
Yeah.
Right, let's work through frustration.
Right.
Bang, we're on the same page.
Right. Okay. Then you can
discuss.
Right.
But if one's feeling resentment, one's feeling frustrated, and there's a tension, well, one's going to be trying to justify it from one feeling, and one's going to justify it from the other.
Yeah.
And it's not the frequency is going to
be two sort of egos that play in defense mode, and the gaslighting can be happening on both sides. Go into this intellectual fight rather than let's put the arms down, defenses, because this ain't going to get us.
No, because you're going to fight from frustration. I'm going to fight from resentment.
Yeah.
We're not going to meet, so we have to name, what's behind those two emotions.
Yeah.
What's behind
it? Yeah. What is going on?
Yeah.
What is going on?
It's like anger for me. Anger is a secondary emotion.
Yeah.
There's always something under anger.
Right.
So, for me, there's a lot of people out there doing anger management programs and anger management. Get into your anger. It's a waste of time.
Yeah.
Because anger is secondary. Like, unless you get under what's causing the anger, what's the feeling behind. Because anger is the expression of the feeling.
Right. Yeah.
I feel anger, but what's caused the anger?
Yeah, what's caused the anger?
So anger's not really a feeling per se. It's more of a anger's the response
of
the
energy,
feeling. Anger's a response.
Yeah.
Anger is the energy behind the frustration or the resentment.
Right, of something that's going on, that's part of your past, some sort of.
Because anger just doesn't arise.
Yeah.
Anger arises because something's triggered anger.
Right.
It's usually resentment or frustration or something we've seen or experienced. Yeah. So anger management is almost a waste of time.
Right.
It's good to go out and get rid of it. Yeah.
Right.
But
it's like
what about
having a cathartic experience?
It's great, but if you don't deal with the emotion, it's going to come back.
It's going to come back again. Another cathartic.
Another band-aid.
Right. But it's better to have what is it? An empty house and a bad tenant sort of thing.
Yeah, it's good to get it out. But at the end of the day,
sort it out.
At the end of the day, you've got to go back to the core.
Right. Why does it keep happening?
And this is the same in the business. You've got the same thing happening in the staff room or in the office. Right. There's tension.
Yep.
You've got to name that.
You've got to name it.
You've got to go back to the feeling.
You've got to confront it. It doesn't have to be in an aggressive way, but in a way that could be at the same frequency, as you said, and then start to lead go down the path of toning it down. A bit of empathy, compassion. So if someone that's going to have to start.
If it's needed.
Right.
It might not be. It might be that it needs an explosion.
Right.
And healthy explosion is actually good in relationships.
Right.
When it's safe.
When it's safe.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. When would it be safe?
When you Greek or when you're Italian. Explode all the time.
Hey, right. Okay.
So when it's safe is when there are rules and agreements.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
Okay.
So if you have rules and agreements,
right. Some boundaries.
Boundaries. When we're in the space, it's okay to yell.
Yeah.
Yeah. If we have strategies in place and safety in place to do that.
Right.
Because sometimes there's nothing like a great good yell.
Yeah.
Seriously. Sometimes it's like fantastic.
Yeah.
As long as it's safe.
Yeah.
As long as both people or the team feel safe.
Right. They know that it's allowed.
They know it's allowed.
And
And when it's just thrown in, and that CEO or
from nowhere
coming in screaming and yelling.
Yeah.
Well, there's two things. One is he has the authority to that.
Right.
And the others don't because they can be terminated from their job.
Yeah.
They can be yelling and screaming.
Yeah.
So there's an unfairness.
That's right. It is an unfairness with that, right?
Yeah.
It's like,
so there's no agreement. So the agreement could be that we all have the same. We're all allowed to scream at a certain time if we're frustrated, because we're all equal in the emotional space.
Yeah.
There should be no hierarchy in emotional expression.
No, and look, it should be a safe place. And if you're half a leader, then when your team come, if one of your team come in, it's a one-on-one situation. It's in the office, closed doors. That you should be allowed to, in effect, go off the record.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, a good leader should be able to have their people feeling comfortable coming into that office And if they need to spit, they'll spit.
Yeah. If there's
Right.
if the safety measures are in place, if the agreements are in place,
Right.
if the containers are
And remaining respectful, but okay to yell, okay to release.
if it's needed,
You
if
know?
it's required, if it's allowed. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Right.
I think it's healthy.
Yeah,
It's
I
healthy.
think it's healthy too. I mean, I've had that with some of my people, and then I've responded in the same way, but then with a path to okay, what's really going on? It could be, and a lot of the time, it could be things at home, other parts of their life.
Yeah. Oh,
You know?
totally, yeah.
And as a leader, you should be asking these questions and caring for your people. You know, if you're going to be taking a few of those arrows and feeling wounded by it, what are you doing in that job in the first place?
Yeah. And nobody's got nothing going on to me.
Right? No, yeah, nobody, and everybody needs to go to the toilet at some stage.
Nobody's got nothing
Right.
going on. So
Right.
I
Leaders as well. They're carrying a lot more
I
weight.
see clients, and they wear the veneer, the mask, and then we take the veneer, the mask off in a session, and it's like, what's going on? You wouldn't believe.
Right.
Seriously,
Right.
Yeah. Just
Some
you've got
down
stuff
the
going
tears.
on. I've got stuff
Right.
going on.
Yeah.
We've all got stuff going on.
Exactly.
But sharing and showing that's really dangerous in the culture that we've created.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because
And
it's taken
we've
advantage of.
And it's being created.
Trust.
Yeah, it's being created. And
Yeah.
I think we can uncreate that.
Yeah.
And find a better paradigm where there is safety.
Yeah.
We can sit in a space where we can share emotions.
Right.
As long as people don't then come back and use the Achilles heel.
Right.
And use it.
And use it against you. You've got to be really careful with who you
and that
do that
happens.
with.
And that
Yeah, and that kind of sucks, and it's sad that happens.
Yeah.
But hopefully there is a general, well, talking about awakeness. I mean, there is an energy on the planet right now, across the board.
Yeah, there is in my world,
right? There's in your world, definitely. Right.
Probably in yours too.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's good because I kind of like put a foot in both camps as well. I can relate to what it's like being in the corporate world and what that looks like rather than working in it, where now I can work also on it and working with these leaders too. So to sort of land this plane, feelings, spiritualogical. We took a journey there today, pacing in and leading. Final comments on this before we wrap up.
SQ.
Spiritual quotient.
Yeah. Get some spiritual intelligence.
Yeah.
Get some soulful intelligence.
Right.
Go and do something around understanding feelings, expressing feelings.
Take a leadership position.
Take a leadership. Go and do a leadership course on feelings. Because if you get into feelings and you treat the staff and understand feelings,
what's going to happen?
It's going to increase the energy flow.
Right, and so
in a positive way.
In a positive way, you're connecting better with your team. They're still more motivated. They feel it's a safe place. They'll trust you. They'll go to hell and high water for you if you allow them that freedom and to actually take an interest in their feelings. You know, a lot of them at the beginning will be very standoffish.
So EQ, RQ, and SQ.
Right. Right. There we go.
Emotion, relationships.
Relationship quotient, spiritual quotient, which is where leaders have to be adept at that to be effective.
Yeah. And what I'd suggest is there's a new paradigm for that. There's new learning.
Yeah.
There's new work to be done with that. And some of that I suggest is still being developed.
Right.
You know, we're still developing that as thought leaders.
But what a huge opportunity.
Right.
Well, we all are, right? We're at different levels of this. I mean, it's a massive opportunity for the corporate world. We're all about bringing the soul to the business, right? To do that, because what they'll end up being at the end of the day is results. Because once again, it's like happy people perform. How can you get them being the HQ, happy quotient, not headquarters, right? And getting that up, and that's really tapping into people's feelings.
Yeah, it is. So we leave the day, Freedom Friday. With that feeling of going into the weekend. What does it feel like to leave the office? What does it feel like to leave the staff? Are you leaving in a positive feeling space? Right. Or is there still some negative stuff there? The question is, are you willing to carry it up, or are you going to go back in on Friday, name the elephant in the room today, and resolve it in the last few hours of the day, and say, I want to get into my feeling emotional EQ here. Right. I'm going to take a stand. I'm going to take some courage. And whatever's unresolved in myself or in the organisation, in the business, or with the person, go back and resolve.
Right. A bit like not hitting the stack with your partner before resolving those things.
Yeah. Go resolve. Get into the feeling behind it. Get into the emotion behind it. Name it. Entertainment. That'll be the call for Feeling Friday.
All right.
Feeling Friday.
And Feeling Friday. There we go. All right. Frequency Friday. All right. So I think we'll be leaving it there. But Mr. Hanks, if people want to get hold of you and to learn more about this and what programs you have, how do they do that?
Come to the Gold Coast.
Come to the Gold Coast.
Or,
face-to-face.
Adrian Hanks is on LinkedIn. Adrian Hanks is on websites. Adrian Hanks is on Facebook.
Yep.
So just look for that. Adrian Hanks and look for the big smiley bald-headed fella. And you'll find me on social media and do connect. Send me a message. Go into my Calendly and book in for a 15-minute conversation. And let's see if there's some synergy and if there is, we can work together.
Fantastic. Awesome.
And Mr. Tommy G, what do we do?
Right, so Tommy Gallant, once again, Facebook, LinkedIn, also biotechexec.net. And if you complete the executive lifestyle assessment on there, that will allow us to connect and get together for 20, 30 minutes, whatever, and talk about a health optimization, health and wellness optimization strategy. Doing all the things physiological and psychological, but Mr. Spiritualogical, Psychological is over on this side here. And together, where can they find us, Mr. Hanks?
LinkedIn on Corporate Alchemist Project page, or if you want to come and knock on the door and come into the Corporate Alchemist Project group by invitation, that's for men in a business corporate space. You can come in and there's some special things you get in there every single day in terms of some videos and some information and just connecting up with some of your peers in that space. And we're trying to get that movement really happening, Tommy G. And we're doing that specifically with the product we're bringing out in a few weeks with our video program, our training program.
Slaving through that.
Really exciting. So more news on that, I think, next week. We'll share some dates and times hopefully on that.
Yes, cross the fingers. Wow.
So, Tommy G, you're going to have an amazing weekend.
I will, thank you.
Yep. And everybody out there watching and listening in, you're going to have an amazing weekend too. And we'll catch up with you on Tasty Tuesday on the next CAP TV.
All right, guys. Have a good one.